And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Tuesday, December 2nd. Feels more like January 2nd outside. We have temperatures right now in the teens, and we'll be lucky to make it up into the lower 20s today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel, who is on the road again. You made it to your destination, though, it looks like, right, Bridgette?
I have arrived. I am in Deadwood, South Dakota. I am here for the South Dakota Cattlemen's annual event, and I'm going to spend a day or two here. They've got quite a bit of fresh snow. I say there's probably 4 or 5 inches of fresh snow on the ground. Like right here, there might be a little bit of a band that's tracking across southern South Dakota, but generally speaking, things are doing pretty well out here. It's chilly, but not the end of the world.
Right. And there's a couple of clipper systems that are going to affect you over there in the Black Hills, and those are coming into much of the northern plains. In fact, we've got about 2 or 3 of these that are on the way here throughout much of the northern and even central plains here over the next week or so. And one of those is coming through as we speak today. It's pretty weak here in our area. It's bringing a lot of cloud cover throughout the area. And temperatures, boy, I'll tell you, they're nice and mild. Well, nice and mild for this time of the year out in the western part of the state, where we're in the low to mid 30s. But we're in the 20s, or we're expecting highs in the low 20s here in the east, and in the 20s to near 30 in the central part of the state. But a few flurries in the far northern valley and into northwest Minnesota. And some of those will squeak into the FM area, but we're not expecting any measurable snow, with south winds about 10 to 15. Then tonight, we'll see skies turn partly cloudy late. We'll drop down into the single digits with a northwest wind at 10 to 25, producing wind chills about 10 to 20 below. It's going to be a nasty start to tomorrow morning, but we'll see sunshine tomorrow morning and throughout the day with highs between 5 and 10 above. That's it, with wind chills about 10 to 15 below throughout the day. And then as we head into Thursday, we're looking at windy conditions, developing southwest winds at about 10 to 25 and highs in the low to mid 20s. We'll continue in the 20s on Friday. Another clipper system comes our way Friday night into Saturday. That'll bring a little bit of light snow through the area as well. Again, accumulations look to be very minor with that. And then another cold plunge of air comes into the area as we head into the weekend with highs between about 10 and 15 both Saturday and Sunday. Now, early next week, we're starting to see a sign of some better chances for snow throughout the valley and into lakes country. We'll keep an eye on that, as a couple of stronger clipper systems will be riding out of Canada. So early next week, we could add a little bit more to the snow cover. But I'll tell you what, this cold weather that we've been having, great for ice making. So good news for our ice anglers. And for snow lovers, we're just not seeing a lot of snow, at least for this week. But as we head into next week, that's when we'll start to see our snow chances increase. Now, coming up this Friday on the Jay Thomas Show, immediately following Weather and Ag in Focus, we will have our winter weather outlook with Gary Lezak, and we will be kind of going down what we're expecting for this upcoming winter. We'll take a little peek into spring, but we're going to focus mainly on winter. We're going to be talking about how this winter compares to last, and the cycle length this year, much different than last year. So remember, kind of focus back into early October. I believe it was about October 7th through the 17th around here. Across much of the state, where we were that was the beginning of the LRC cycle, and it was a very stormy beginning to the LRC cycle. So what does that tell us? That tells us as soon as the cycle sets, those next 10 days of each LRC cycle are going to be stormy in the northern plains. So that much we know. Now we have to get the cycle length set to be able to tell exactly when those days are going to be. But remember, we had flooding rains across parts of the state, Bridgette, during those first couple of weeks in October, especially the central and western parts of the state got a lot of rain. And again, that will translate into each cycle. So whether it be snow during the winter part of the cycle or rain during the springtime. So again, this winter is going to be different than last winter. We had a pretty much cakewalk winter last winter. And I do believe this winter is going to be different.
Well, the chances are high, and we're going to learn more about that by the end of the week when we do the Dean's Weather Special on Friday. That'll be part of the Jay Thomas Show. And Dean and Jay are going to be handling that. I'm going to stop by for just a little while when he lets me know so I can be a part of it for a short time. But also at the end of the week, John Haug, who's joining us in studio, he is with Financial Wealth Solutions. John, you have something coming up at the end of the week as well. Would you care to give us some details on what's happening for you in Watford City?
Yeah, on Thursday, we're going to be at the Rough Rider Center in Watford City, and myself, my partner out of Bismarck, Dan Spilavoy, and Lori Weiss with Moss Krusek Law Office. We're going to be there doing a presentation called Keep the Farm in the Family and the Family on the Farm, and we're doing it at 3 in the afternoon and again at 7 in the evening. So if people need to fit that in their schedule, they can do that. But we're going to go through some pretty unique ways people can both save taxes now and also for the future when they, let's say they have one child that's going to stay on the farm and one or two other ones that are going to go out and be a doctor, a nurse, a firefighter, a teacher, whatever. Well, how do you equalize your estate at the end of your time on Earth and your kids are going to take over? So maybe the farming kid's going to get the land. Well, how do you prevent them from having to sell off part of it in order to pay off their siblings? We show you how you can do that by saving taxes not only this year, but in the future, and equalize your estate so your legacy stays intact and they're not having to sell off a section or a quarter or something to pay off their siblings.
And John, the methods that you have talked to us about, we visited during the Radio Farm Show here on November 5th. You really have some plans for folks who may think that there aren't any good options. And taking the time to sit through these seminars probably sparks some conversations within the family that you need to be having. So really, I think that it should be for any generation level, right? It's not just necessarily the generation that wants to change over the farm, but to the one who might be receiving it.
Oh, definitely. And the ones that are receiving it want to know what the plan is. Mom and dad sometimes might think they have a good plan in place, but we want to make sure that it's okay with your children as well, because you want them to be able to spend this holiday time together and enjoy it and not have dirty looks across the table or something because, well, they got this and I didn't get that. And, well, this way everybody knows what the plan is. And one big thing we found is, you know, if you have to pay off your siblings, maybe now this land that you've paid for all your whole life, all of a sudden now your child has to take out a mortgage to pay off their brother or sister. They don't want to have to all of a sudden have to remortgage the farm. I actually had a lady at Big Iron a couple years ago say, how many times does our family have to buy this ground?
She's right. She's
Yep.
totally right. And the other thing, that people need to remember is that fair does not mean it's equal. There's a difference, and there can be some very creative ways to make up that difference.
Exactly. Very, very important point. And there's a lot of ways we can help to make sure it's equitable for everybody.
Do you have a couple of the highlights of what you're going to share during that seminar in Watford City? Some things in regards to, here's a couple of our topic areas, because you've got an attorney with you talking finances and legalities.
Yep. And our attorney is actually both an attorney and a CPA. And she's, these plans are pretty involved and not a lot of people know them and how to really work them. In fact, many, many years ago when we first approached her with this, she had no idea how they really worked. And she got herself an education and now she's like, wow, this is such an important tool for so many people that they don't know about. So we're going to go into a little bit in the tax code, actually show where they talk about how these plans are in the tax code. And you can get great, huge deductions now and in the future. But I'm also going to go through a real world example of a current client with obviously the names redacted, so it's not the correct names, but how they ended up with this plan prevented their son from having to do a $700,000 a year mortgage to buy off all the property.
It makes such a massive difference to have the peace of mind, whether you are the incoming next generation to farm or even if you're outgoing, because there are plans available. We don't just have to wait until the will covers it. There needs to be more than just that in many regards. So, John, I think what you have coming up in Watford City is going to be tremendous. And if you could remind everybody the time, the location, etc. So if they're in that region and they can attend in person, how they could get there.
Yeah, they can go to eventbrite.com and sign up if you'd like. If you don't have to, you can just do a walk-in, of course, but it's at the Rough Rider Center in Watford City, 3 in the afternoon, and again at 7 o'clock in the evening. And another important thing people need to remember is you may already have a trust set up, but the trust is one of the tools. It might not be enough. There's other things that are involved, and it doesn't hurt to have somebody else take a look at what you got going on right now.
I think that's great advice. And remember how to keep the family on the farm and the farm in the family. Those words have been quoted by a number of people who heard you say them on our Radio Farm Show, John. So thank you for using them.
All right, thank you. And if people want to call me or text me and have any questions, my number is 701-318-4061, or email me, John, Jon, at financialwellsolutions.com.
And if you didn't get John's information, you can easily call us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. I have his contact information. Our email inboxes are powered by Superior Grain Equipment. You can reach us ag@flagfamily.com or weather@flagfamily.com. And above all, you can go back to watch us on our live streams, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or Acres TV under Weather and Ag in Focus. When we return from the American Ag Network's livestock market news, we are going to visit with Kyle Courtney. Kyle farms down at Oaks, North Dakota, but he's got an idea, and it's time most of us hear it. So we'll be back with Kyle after this. Thank you so much for being here. Dean is live in the Coral Laundromat studios. And remember, if it's time to take some things in to get them washed and you don't have time to wait, you can just drop them off and they'll do that work for you. Meanwhile, I am in Deadwood, South Dakota at the South Dakota Cattlemen's Association event. Happy to be listening to what's going on in the beef industry and have much to share once we return. Now, Kyle Courtney, who farms at Oaks, North Dakota, is joining Dean in studio. So, Kyle, would you care to introduce yourselves for those who haven't yet been graced by your presence?
Well, thanks, Bridgette. I'm Kyle Courtney from Oaks, North Dakota, fifth generation corn and soybean farmer down there. I'm on the Grand Farms board, and I'm also on the National Science Foundation Ag Engine of North Dakota board as well.
Could you tell us just a little bit about that National Science Foundation engine? I hear the term, people mention it, but I can't say that anyone's given a really good descriptor of what does that do? How does that bring some value back into North Dakota?
So the goal of the engine is food security is national security. So from a government perspective, that was one of the main reasons and the drivers for setting it up, and it's really driving rural economic growth through agriculture. We all see small towns, the population is going down. Part of the goal of the NSF engine is to try to combat that. How do we keep jobs in rural communities vibrant? And how do we do that with agriculture being the base of that?
And because North Dakota does have so much ag, this is a perfect match for all of us. Now, based on the extra things that you do with National Science Foundation Engine and Grand Farm, but because you farm, you've had some thoughts and ideas about a way for farmers to get a little bit better monetary return, if you will, on what they do for their data. So would you care to give your elevator pitch on that? I love the idea.
So the basic pitch is there's 15 or 20 companies, private corporations that are always trying to get their hands on our data in one form or another and try to privatize it for themselves. And I'm coming at it from a different perspective. How can we keep control in farmers' hands when it comes to our data? How do we keep it anonymous amongst ourselves, but how do we maintain the driver's seat, I guess you could say, with it? And that's kind of led me to a co-op idea. Farmers are pretty familiar with the co-op model already, whether it's an AgTager, a CHS, a Land O'Lakes model. We understand how they operate, how they work, and why they were set up. And what I'm researching is how can we do that with our data? We're all familiar with AI at this point and how it's impacting things. And it is going to impact agriculture pretty dramatically in my perspective. And what AI needs is data to be able to power those insights that it gives us. And rather than having that under control of a corporation or a private entity, I would rather have it under control of a co-op set up by farmers, basically with three principles. Farmer-owned, farmer-controlled, and if it does produce any profits, the profits go back to the farmer. And the farmer can dictate who they work with. It's basically maintaining a seat at the table with artificial intelligence coming to affect agriculture.
Okay, I'm going to back you up for just a second. When you said data, define that for us. Because you're not just talking about someone's financial spreadsheets.
Oh, no, we're not actually going through the financial spreadsheets at all. The initial plan is what type of insights can we get from an agriculture and agronomic perspective? So we would be looking at planting data, tillage data, fertilizer data, and harvest data as the primary drivers of it, and spray data as well, to give us insights on, are we doing the right things from a macro perspective on our farm? You know, prior to AI, farmers collect an immense amount of data, but how many actual insights do we glean from it or do we get from it? And being able to...
I wanted to ask you that because I think there's so often that you feel overwhelmed by the vast amount of information that you have at your fingertips. So that's probably the first step. Where do I even start to sort some of this out?
Exactly. You know, I spend hours up behind my computer during the winter trying to get the macro decisions right. You know, the big ones, the important ones. And I guarantee on my farm, personally, we still don't get those right on a year-over-year basis. We always do the best we can. You know, farmers are incredible at using our gut feel and our native knowledge to make decisions on a daily basis. And we have to make 15 to 20 micro decisions on every day that impact our farm. Trying to filter through which ones are actually actionable is a challenge. And where do we start with it? You know, you can spend 5 or 6 hours behind a computer and still walk away as confused as when you started. So trying to put the right tools behind it to help us filter through those data sets to actually give us actionable insights that we can create and create change on our operation with.
And taking that information, because you're right, everybody wants to know what you think and what you do on your operation. But now you can receive some profitability for it. So could this be the potential for a little bit of an income stream? You know, other folks are maybe using spray drones, doing tiling, have taken on agritourism. Is that sort of the path that you're looking at with this co-op, or is it bigger than that?
I can probably identify 25 to 50 ways we could profit off of this co-op right now. The interesting part is with the way the technology is rapidly advancing, there's probably another 1,000 I haven't thought of. Everything is going to revolve around data over the next 3 to 5 years. That's where everything's going from a technology standpoint. You guys probably saw the Project Genesis that was signed into law here last week, which is basically the Manhattan Project of AI. It's going to affect agriculture just like every other industry. And if farmers want to maintain control over even just a little bit of what goes on in our operation, because everybody knows farmers, we buy everything retail, we sell wholesale, we pay the trucking both ways, and there's so many things that we don't control on a daily basis. This gives farmers a chance to maintain control over one of our probably most valuable assets, which is our data.
Oh, Kyle, I think there's going to be more questions. I'm writing some down, but for those listening, would love to have you call us. You can reach us on the JLA insurance phone line. Again, that's 701-293-9000. When we return, we're going to continue to talk with Kyle Courtney because he's got an idea for your data, and we'll do that right after this. We get to spend today visiting with Kyle Courtney from Oaks, North Dakota, and some great ideas about farmer data. So, all right, Kyle, one of the questions I wanted to make sure to ask was, excuse me, you mentioned profitability examples, ideas that you've maybe had where could this information be most useful? Can you share just a couple of those to get the thought process rolling for folks?
Yeah, sure. A lot of people have probably used ChatGPT, Grok, or Gemini at this point. If they're out scouting a field and there's a disease on a corn plant, they don't know what it is. You can just take a picture with the AI and it feeds you back the information right away. And then it'll feed you which fungicides potentially to apply to them. But where this is probably going to be going is farmers know you need certain environmental conditions for Liberty to work right, for example. You know, what's the weather, what's the humidity, all those type of things behind it. With the capabilities that are coming online right now, you could talk to your AI on a Sunday and say, I need to spray 500 acres of Liberty by Wednesday. When should I do it? And the AI will come back based on
What are my windows of time is what you're saying?
Yep. Basically from noon on Monday till 4 o'clock on Monday, you should be spraying for the best efficacy as far as the Liberty spray goes, as far as making sure it kills the weeds you want it to. Those are just a few of the examples. You know, it's basically going to be, it won't give you yes and no answers, but back to those gut decisions that we make on the farm, we can have conversations with it to put a scientific perspective behind why we're doing something to help us with that decision-making process on a daily basis.
And Kyle, oops, sorry, Bridgette, go ahead.
No, go. Could you also pool that information? So if you have tidbits and another farm has them, you can kind of use a comparative with it?
That's the goal, one of the goals that we're trying to do. You know, if we can aggregate farmers' data, build a large enough data set, we can start applying AI to that data set and start getting some of those insights. You could almost call it a Jarvis of agriculture, where it's an online data set able to help us with our decision-making processes in a daily or day-to-day fashion. And, you know, coming back to it, if we don't do this as a co-op and do it ourselves together, we'll be paying a retail price to do it down the road.
And Kyle, we were talking off air about how AI is really just from 5 years ago, AI had the capability, the mindset of a kindergartner, I think you said.
Yep.
And where are we expecting this to be in 5 years from now? I mean, look how advanced it's gotten, like we were talking in the last 5 years. What are you foreseeing 5 years down the road from now?
Oh man, that's a wild card. Trying to predict the future
Right?
is always a challenge. You know, it went from basically a kindergartner or preschooler with the most cutting edge AI in 2020 to we're sitting here in 2025 where I can take a picture of a corn leaf and it can tell me the exact disease that's there and what fungicides are going to work on it. You know, from an IQ level, it's almost approaching PhD in certain fields. So if things continue on the trend that they're on, it's hard to see what it's going to be capable of 12 months, let alone 60 months from now.
Right.
But, you know, back to the mindset behind this data co-op, who controls the data is going to control, that's what AI needs to power itself. And who controls the data is going to control the AI. And if we want farmers to control our future, we need to control our data.
That's the key.
That's the key.
Okay.
But also, you're going to teach it, and you're going to teach it to be smart about by using accuracy and quality data, if that makes any sense.
100%. The more data that's accurate, you know, it's one of those old sayings, bad data in, bad data out, good data in, good data out. And it's also a multiplier. The more data you can have, the more it can even out those edge cases. So the more farmers we can get involved working with it, the more acres that we can get in behind it, the better the model is going to get. And then it's also going to continue to get better just based on the exponential, how fast AI is getting better.
So where are you at in this? Are you looking to have other farmers call you with their data and ready to upload it somewhere? Are you looking for specific people in roles to help in some way? What's the next steps?
Right now we're identifying partners we're working with as far as helping to shape what it's going to look like. The goal of it is to have farmers shape it. You know, what are farmers looking for? What are the things that we need? What are the goals that we have with technology moving forward? So we're working with the National Science Foundation on identifying some of that. We're working with Grand Farms a little bit on identifying some of that. We're working with a couple technology companies on identifying what the dashboard will look like as far as updating their data. You know, we're trying to make that as seamless as possible, where if you're using, say, a John Deere Ops Center, and while it's feeding John Deere Ops, it can also feed the co-op at the same time without farmers having to do that extra step. You know, if they sign up for it, we're trying to make it as seamless as possible for the data to transfer to the co-op. And identifying, you know, security concerns. What are the issues behind it? Because, you know, country states would want their access to this information too, if we get to a decent size with it. So making sure it's secure, but then most importantly, making sure farmers feel secure and trusted with what we're trying to build. You know, if it's going to be farmer centric, we need farmer trust. And, you know, the farmer has access to their own dashboard that they can turn their data on and off at any point. No farm can look at another farm's individual data to see what another farmer is doing next to them. That's paramount and a priority. Making sure everything it maintains anonymity, but at the same time, we can aggregate it to find those actionable results we're talking about.
As you are looking at this, do you want other farmers to call you with ideas, or are you not quite at that point yet?
So we have a website up. It's agridatacoop.com. If you're interested in it, you're more than welcome to send us an email. Right now, we're trying to put a list of farmers together that are interested in joining the co-op, so that by the time the technology and the dashboards are set up, we can contact them to help them initiate the process of joining the co-op.
Do you want to look specifically for those who farm, or because I'm at a cattlemen's meeting, how about these guys?
It's going to be open to anybody that's a producer. You know, I want to uplift agriculture as much as we can. And anybody that's a farmer or rancher, anybody tied to agriculture, we want them to have access to this platform.
All right. You and I have talked about this a little bit before, but what haven't we asked about yet? What haven't we remembered that needs to be talked about and shared with those who are listening?
If you look at agriculture's data, it's probably the largest unmonetized data set left in the country. Every other data set out there has been monetized to a certain degree. And agriculture has a massive voice if we walk in lockstep with one another. If we work together, if we get behind each other, rising tides raise all ships. So if we can aggregate the data, this is just one small step we can do to maintain control over some of the stuff that's coming down the road with technology. And we've all seen how, you know, auto steer provided a serious ROI to producers. Yield monitors provided a serious ROI to producers. The technology that's coming down the pipeline right now is going to make those look pretty small in the whole scheme of things. So how do we maintain control over what's coming? And that's the main goal behind what we're trying to do with the data co-op.
For so long, I think we have listened to, I have this data, I don't know what to do with it, and who owns it? Where did it go? If it's in John Deere Ops, is it mine? Does it belong to somebody else? Any other systems, where does that head to? You're looking at helping people take ownership of what they already have and making it worth their time and their learning. So, Kyle, I think that you will probably have a great deal of farmers who want to visit with you and start to figure out how to make this work better, smoother, faster. And I hope that's the case.
I hope as well too. You know, we're trying to get it farmer driven, farmer led. So the more advice we can get from producers in the field, the better the final product will be.
And certainly not even just only North Dakota. You're looking for places all over, farmers from all over who want to participate.
Yeah, the data set, the larger the geographic region and footprint we can touch, the better the data set will be to help drive where this goes. So it's going to be hopefully a national effort.
Do you have a timeline for what you'd like to see completed and by when?
We're hoping to have the technology up and running by spring. So that hopefully this will be the first year we beta tested on probably 50 to 100 farms ideally, work the bugs out of it, and then by next year it'll hopefully be a national release.
Are you looking for more farmers to join for the beta testing?
Absolutely.
How many do you have right now?
Probably right around 25 that have committed.
So about another 25 you're looking for?
Yep, roughly. And then obviously anybody else that wants to be involved, the more names we can get on that list, the better. If the technology comes together quicker than what we're thinking right now, we can open it up to more people. But the bigger list that we can put together, the better.
Okay. Addison, can you put up his website there? And can name of the website again?
It's agridatacoop.com.
Okay.
I look at this and I just think about there's so many possibilities because, as you mentioned, Kyle, you have about 1,000 reasons and ways to use this, and there's probably 1,000 more out there. So I hope your phone starts ringing off the hook and that folks are signing up on the website.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate your time. Definitely.
All right. Well,
No, thank you.
yeah, thanks,
Anytime.
thanks for joining us, Kyle. Appreciate it, and best of luck with the beta testing too.
Appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Well, when we come back, we're going to highlight how long this cold weather is going to last, and what about our snow chances, any of that, and then Bridgette's got a couple of ag topics to hit on as well. All that when we come back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:51 in the afternoon on this Tuesday, December 2nd. And Tom is on line one. Tom has been waiting patiently for the last 45 minutes. Nah, he just called in. Tom, you got a question. What's going on?
Hey, Dean. So last week, and this happened on Wednesday, meteorologist Chris Vickers, I think he's from Toledo, he shared a siege that had happened on Lake Erie where the water dropped about 6 feet in 24 hours.
Okay.
And so so Lake Erie was dry for a long ways out. How often do sieges happen?
That's a good question. Not too often. I'm not familiarized that well with sieges, so I couldn't give you an exact answer, but it's not that common in the Great Lakes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is it more common in smaller lakes?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, no.
Oh.
No. Now, this was,
Okay.
you said he was out of Toledo?
Yeah, I think he is. I looked it up and it looked like the Toledo area.
What was his name again?
So,
What was his name, Tom?
meteorologist Chris Vickers.
That name sounds awful familiar.
Yeah, it was. I saw it on. And he posted a picture in Lake Erie as dry as you could see.
You know what? Let me do some research on that, Tom. I'll do some research on that tonight, and then we'll touch on that topic tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you bet. Good question. That's a good. I wish I was a little more well versed with sieges, but we'll definitely look into that. And actually, I know a couple people that know Chris, so I'll probably reach out to him and have a little chat with him as well.
Perfect spot to get that research done.
Absolutely. And weather-wise, we're looking at no sieges around here. And maybe invasion of Arctic air. That's about it. But I'll tell you what, we've got some cold weather over the next few days, all the way through the weekend. Kind of an up and down. We'll have 20s one day and then single digits the next, and then back up into the 20s. And that's what you get when you get these fast-moving clipper systems moving through here. And again, this is going to be part of the LRC cycle this upcoming winter. We're going to go through this period like we've got now that started right before Thanksgiving, and we'll continue with that clipper-like regime. I do see a pattern change starting to develop possibly later next week. So, and again, we'll kind of incorporate this with our special on Friday on how not only the clipper and Arctic air surges will hit, but we'll also have some nice bump ups in temperatures during this winter as well. So it's going to be an interesting winter. It won't be anything like last winter, as each winter usually is different, although the last two winters I thought were quite similar. I don't see this winter being anything like the last two. So if you thought the last two winters were kind of boring, hopefully we get a little more excitement for you this winter. Bridgette's like, I don't want that much excitement. I'm on the road too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to have to figure out how to skate my way down the hill here at Deadwood when I want to leave Thursday. So we'll see what that looks
exactly.
like. Speaking of what do things look like, let's talk a little bit about what's happening within the ag chemistry business right now. Bayer has been weighing out whether or not to exit the glyphosate business. And there's a lot of reasons for it. First of all, someone can feel free to argue with me that their beliefs in glyphosate might differ than mine. To me, glyphosate is an excellent tool that we have used. It has helped be efficient, keep our food costs low, and it is the #1 globally used herbicide. It has its fit in specific areas. Now, aside from that, there has been discussion about whether or not to continue the registration of that herbicide. There have been some resistance concerns, etc. But the question is, what would come next? If we don't have glyphosate, there is a next molecule to be launched by Bayer, icathalin methyl. Now, we don't know a lot about it yet. It's a non-selective new mode of action. It comes in a molecule that would need to be tank mixed with others in order for its best usage in the field for broad spectrum. Will that be what we can use to replace glyphosate? I'm not sure that we would. Now, additionally, Sumamoto, who owns the company Valent, they are bringing out epirifenicel, which that is already registered in Argentina. It is a group 14, which is the PPOs, the pigment inhibitors, and it's a non-selective herbicide. Non-selective means it just controls everything that it touches. It's not a new mode of action. But what we are hearing from from Sumamoto, it's a herbicide with biological performance that's equivalent to glyphosate in both grass and broadleaves and could have similar qualities to glyphosate, like high efficacy, wide range of weeds, low use rates, low vapor action, etc. So it also has a complete and quick kill of the target plant. So it can fully kill a 3-leaf weed in 5 days after treatment by using systemic action. Where is this leading us when it comes to what would be the new product of choice if we didn't have our glyphosate? Well, I don't think we have an actual answer yet. So many of the products that are going to continue to come down to the field levels for use are going to be very narrow windowed. They aren't going to be nearly as full spectrum as what we've used in the past with a product like a glyphosate, even a glufosinate. But we do see that research is continuing to be done. New ideas are continuing to be found when it comes to how do we control weeds, whether that's coming through chemistry in a jug, or I had a great conversation on Twitter last night with several people about using the weed zappers, power generation that electrocutes a plant, and or propane could be used to burn the plants as well. See where it leads.
Interesting.
Yeah, we've got to come up with some new creative things. Weeds tend to modify themselves very quickly, and we have to be just as fast as they are.
Is that a problem just here in the northern central plains, or are we looking nationwide with that? That's all over, huh?
And globally. I mean,
Okay.
every country has their particular problem.
ones, yeah.
But it was interesting to note when I was talking with growers about this weed zapper using the electric power generation on a tractor with an implement that could zap the weeds. They said water hemp is pretty easy to kill. Water hemp stands up, especially over a crop canopy like soybeans. The soybeans, even if they get zapped, they tend to come back pretty well. They don't translocate that electric power very well. But one that's tough to control is actually velvet leaf. And velvet leaf isn't a prominent weed problem here in the upper northern plains, but it is in the traditional Midwest. And it's a plant that, just because of the way that leaf is designed and the little fibrous hairs on it, it doesn't necessarily take the full dose of electricity, and the plant doesn't get controlled the way it should. So it was an interesting little learning moment in agronomy.
Cool. Cool. Well, that'll do it for today's Weather and Ag in Focus. Bridgette and I would like to thank you for joining us. We'll have more on the LRC special. We'll touch a little bit more on that tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.